Chapter 1. The Old Pirate of the Admiral Benbow. My name is Jim Hawkins, and I'm going to tell you the story of Treasure Island. It began when I was a boy. My father had an inn by the sea called the Admiral Benbow. One day, an old seaman arrived with a big sea chest. He was tall and strong.
"Bring me a glass of rum,"
he said to my father.
"Are there many people here?"
My father said no.
"Good, I'll stay here. You can call me Captain. Take my chest up to my room."
Every day he went to the cliffs and looked at the sea with his telescope. And every day he asked us,
"Do you sometimes notice any seamen here?"
We began to understand that he didn't want to meet any seamen. One day he said to me,
"Tell me when you see a seaman with one leg, and I'll give you some money."
Sometimes the old captain drank a lot of rum. Then he sang, and he told us some horrible stories. He didn't pay us any money, so my poor father was unhappy, and he became ill. One afternoon, Dr. Livesey came to see him. In the evening, the doctor smoked his pipe with some friends. The old captain was there.
"Silence,"
he said.
"I'm going to tell you a story."
"Are you talking to me, sir?"
said Dr. Livesey angrily.
"Yes."
"You drink too much rum, sir,"
said the doctor.
"One day you will die."
The angry captain took a knife from his pocket.
"Put that knife back in your pocket,"
the doctor said calmly,
"or you'll be arrested. I am also a magistrate."
The captain put the knife in his pocket and sat down. He was very quiet that evening. That winter was cold, and my father became worse. One morning in January, a seaman arrived.
"Is there a man called Bill here?"
he asked. I said there was only the captain, and he was on the beach. Then the man waited behind the door, so when the captain came in, he didn't see him.
"Bill!"
The captain looked round quickly. His face was white.
"You know me, Bill,"
the man said.
"We're old friends."
"Black Dog."
"Yes, I've come to see you."
"What do you want?"
They sat at the table with some rum. The door was open, and Black Dog sat near it. I couldn't hear their conversation. Then there was a lot of noise, and the table and chairs fell over. I saw Black Dog with blood on his shoulder. Then he ran out of the door. The captain's cutlass had blood on it.
"Bring me some rum, Jim,"
he said. When I came back with the rum, the captain was on the floor. His eyes were closed, and his face was very white. Then Dr. Livesey arrived to see my father. He looked at the captain and said,
"He drinks too much rum, and so he's ill."
Then he showed me a tattoo on the captain's arm.
"Look, his name is written here,"
he said.
"Billy Bones."
After a few moments, the captain opened his eyes.
"Now, Mr. Bones, don't drink rum again, or you'll die,"
the doctor told him. We took him upstairs to his room and put him in his bed. At 12 o'clock, I went into his room with some medicine, but he said that he wanted a glass of rum.
"But the doctor,"
I began.
"Oh, the doctor. What does he know about me? Bring me one glass of rum, Jim, and I'll give you some money."
"I don't want your money,"
I said, but I brought the rum.
"How long must I stay in bed, Jim?"
"The doctor says a week."
"But they know where I am now, and they'll come. They want to kill me and take my sea chest. Jim, did you see that Black Dog today? He's a bad man, but the others are very bad, and they want my sea chest. You see, there are old Captain Flint's men, and they want to know where his treasure is. They're going to give me the black spot."
"What's the black spot?"
I asked.
"They always give you the black spot before they kill you."
That evening, my poor father died. For a few days, my mother and I were very busy, and we didn't think much about the captain. The day after my father's funeral, a blind man with a stick stopped outside the inn and asked me if it was called the Admiral Benbow. I said yes.
Will you give me your hand, my young friend, and take me into the inn?
When I gave him my hand, he pulled me to him quickly.
Now, boy, take me to the captain.
I can't, sir.
I said.
Oh, take me or I'll break your arm.
His voice was cold and cruel. I was very afraid of him, and I took him to the captain. The poor old pirate was very afraid too.
Now give me your left hand, Bill,
the blind man said. And he put something in the captain's hand. Then he went out of the inn very fast. The captain looked at his left hand. There was a piece of paper with a black spot on it.
10 o'clock. They're coming at 10, and they'll kill me. We've got 6 hours, Jim. We've still got time.
The captain tried to stand up, but just then he put his hand to his heart and fell on the floor. I ran to help him, but he was dead. Chapter 2. The Sea Chest. Now my mother and I decided to go to the village for help. When we arrived, the people didn't want to return with us to the inn. They were too afraid. My mother said angrily,
"Jim, we'll go back. We'll open the captain's sea chest and take our money."
So a boy from the village went to find Dr. Livesey, and my mother and I went back to the Admiral Benbow. I locked the door. The dead captain was still on the floor.
"We must find the key and open the chest,"
said my mother. I looked at the piece of paper near his hand. There was a message on it. "We are coming tonight at 10. I looked at the clock. It was 6.
We've got 4 hours, Mother,
I said. I found the key in the captain's pocket. We went upstairs to his room, and my mother opened the chest. Inside, there was a packet of papers and a bag. In the bag, we found a lot of money, and my mother started to count it. But then I heard the sound of the blind man's stick on the road. He tried to open the door, but it was locked. Then he went away.
"We must go, Mother,"
I said.
"He'll tell the other men, and they'll come here."
"No,"
she answered,
"it's only 7 o'clock. The captain must pay the correct money for his stay with us."
and she continued to count the money. But soon we heard the voices of the pirates. We took some money and the packet of papers, and we ran out of the inn. Suddenly, my mother stopped.
"My dear, I can't run."
"Oh, Mother,"
I said angrily.
"why did you count all that money? Now they're going to kill us."
Then she fell on my shoulder. Fortunately, we were near a little bridge.
"Come, Mother,"
I said.
"there's a bridge. We'll go under it and the pirates won't see us."
But I went back and stood behind a tree. I could see the road in front of our inn. Some men arrived. One of them was the blind man.
Go in,
he shouted at the men. They found the dead captain and the sea chest upstairs. One man opened the window of the captain's room. "Pew, the chest is open," he told the blind man.
Is the packet of papers there?
Said Pew. "We can't see it,"
The boy has got it.
said Pew.
Look for them, you dogs. Find them, and we'll all be rich.
"But we can take some money and go, Pew," said one man. Now the blind man was very angry. He tried to hit the other pirates with his stick. Then I heard the sound of horses. The pirates ran away very fast. In a minute there was only Pew on the road.
Don't leave me, mates.
He shouted. Some men on horses came down the hill. Pew tried to run away, but he couldn't see. He fell down. He got up. He ran. But he ran into one of the horses, and he was killed. The men on the horses were police officers. With them was the boy from the village.
What did these pirates want?
One of the officers asked. I replied,
"I think they wanted this.
and I showed him the packet of papers.
I want to give it to Dr. Livesey."
Yes, he's a good man. I'll take you to his house.
Dr. Livesey was at the hall, Squire Trelawney's big house. The two men were in the library.
Good evening, Jim,
said the doctor.
What are you doing here?
I told them everything. Then I gave the packet of papers to the doctor, and he put it in his pocket. After the officer left, he said to the squire,
Have you heard of a pirate called Captain Flint?
Yes, a terrible man. The Spanish were very afraid of him.
Did he have any money?
Don't you know the story of Flint's treasure? Nobody knows where he buried it.
Very well,
said the doctor, and he opened the packet. There were two things in it, a book and a piece of paper. On the first page of the book was the name Billy Bones, mate. Then there were a lot of dates and sums of money.
This is an account book,
the doctor said.
It shows how much money that buccaneer Billy Bones got.
Then he opened the paper. It was a map of an island, about 9 miles long and 5 miles wide. There were 2 big harbours and a hill called the Spyglass. There were also 3 crosses, 2 on the north part of the island and 1 in the southwest. Next to this one were the words, "A lot of the treasure here." "Livesey," said Mr. Trelawney happily. "Tomorrow I'm going to Bristol to buy a ship and find some men. Hawkins, you'll be the cabin boy. You, Livesey, are the ship's doctor. We'll find the treasure and we'll all be rich." The doctor answered,
Jim and I will go with you, but the pirates also know about this paper, and they want the treasure. So we mustn't say a word about this map.
"Livesey, you're right," said the squire. "I won't say a word." Chapter 3. Long John Silver. The squire went to Bristol, and I lived at the hall with Redruth, his servant. The weeks passed. Then a letter arrived from Squire Trelawney. It said that the ship was ready. Its name was Hispaniola, and it was a very good ship. But there were problems. The squire could find only 4 men. Then he met a man called Long John Silver, a seaman, and gave him a job as cook on the ship. The letter continued, "He has only got 1 leg, but he's a fine man. He found some men for me, good, strong men. Now we've got a crew, and I want to begin our voyage immediately. So come to Bristol quickly, Hawkins, with Redruth." The next morning, Redruth and I travelled to Bristol. It was a wonderful city and a big port with lots of ships. I was very excited because I was going to sail to an island and find buried treasure. When we saw the squire, he said, "The doctor is here. We're sailing tomorrow." Then he sent me to the Spyglass Inn with a note for John Silver. I knew Long John when I saw him because he had 1 leg. He was about 50, but very tall and strong. I remembered the old captain's words at the Admiral Benbow. "Tell me when you see a sailor with 1 leg." Was that sailor Long John Silver?
Mr. Silver, sir?
Yes, my boy. And who are you?
Then he saw the note in my hand.
Oh, you're our new cabin boy. Hello.
At that moment, a man ran out of the inn. I knew his face.
"Stop him!"
I shouted.
"It's Black Dog! He's a pirate!"
What?
Silver said.
A pirate here in my inn? I don't know his name, but I think I saw him here with a blind man.
"Yes, I know that blind man. His name was Pew."
I looked at Long John. Black Dog was here at his inn. I thought, is Black Dog his friend? Was Pew his friend? Are the other buccaneers his friends? But John Silver was a clever man. He smiled at me, and he said,
Look, Hawkins, this is bad for me. Black Dog was here, and Squire Trelawney will think I'm a bad man. I'll come with you and talk to him.
When Long John told the squire and Dr. Livesey about Black Dog, they believed him and thought that he was an honest man. "We're sailing at 4 o'clock this afternoon, Silver," the squire told him.
Aye, aye, sir,
said the cook, and he went away. When we went on board the Hispaniola, the captain of the ship was angry. He wanted to speak to the squire. "What is it, Captain Smollett?" said Mr. Trelawney.
"I must tell you that I don't like this voyage. I don't like the men, and I don't like my officer."
The squire was very angry, but Dr. Livesey said,
why don't you like this voyage, Captain?
"The squire didn't tell me that we're going to look for treasure. I heard about it from the men. I don't like treasure voyages. They're dangerous. Very dangerous."
I understand,
the doctor said.
but why don't you like the crew? Aren't they all good seamen?
"Perhaps,"
Replied the captain.
"but I don't like them."
All right. In your opinion, Captain, what must we do?
"First, you must put the guns, the powder, and the ammunition near this cabin. Second, there are 4 good men. Your men, Squire. They can sleep here near your cabin."
When Captain Smollett went out, the doctor said,
Trelawney, you have 2 honest men on this ship, Captain Smollett and John Silver.
"John Silver, yes," said the squire angrily, "but not the captain, not him." When Long John Silver came on board, he said,
What's happening, mates?
"We are putting the guns and ammunition near the squire's cabin," answered one of the men.
Why?
Just then the captain arrived.
"My orders,"
He said,
"Now go down and cook the supper, my man."
Aye, aye, sir.
answered Long John, and he went to the kitchen.
He's a good man.
The doctor said to the captain.
"Perhaps, sir."
Then the captain saw me and said,
"Go down to the kitchen and help the cook."
I really didn't like Captain Smollett. Early in the morning, the ship was ready, and we began our voyage to the island of treasure. John Silver could move very fast around the ship on his one leg. His friend Israel Hands told me,
He's very courageous, like a lion.
all the men liked him. He did his work well. To me, he was always kind, and he was always happy when I came to the kitchen. In one corner, he had a parrot in a cage.
Welcome, Jim.
He said one day,
My parrot, Captain Flint, says our voyage will be good.
Pieces of eight, pieces of eight.
said the parrot.
You know, that bird is maybe 200 years old.
Long John said, and he gave it some sugar.
She has sailed to many places. Madagascar, Malabar.
And he told me wonderful stories about Captain Flint. I liked John Silver very much, and I thought he was a very good man. Captain Smollett was happy with the Hispaniola, and now he also said that the men were good. But he didn't like the voyage for treasure, and he didn't like the squire, so the squire didn't like him. One evening, just before we arrived at Treasure Island, I wanted to eat an apple before I went to bed. The apples were in some big barrels on deck. In one barrel there weren't many apples, so I climbed into it. I ate an apple, but I was very tired, and I fell asleep. I woke up when I heard John Silver's voice. He was very near the barrel. I heard only a few words, and then I began to tremble.
Flint was my captain.
Said Long John to a young man called Dick.
We were all pirates, me and Pew and the others. I lost my leg, and Pew lost his eyes. But I put a lot of money in the bank. Look at Pew. He was rich, and then he became poor. And where is he now? Dead. And where are Flint's men now? Well, a lot of them are on this ship.
I trembled when I heard this.
I'm 50 years old.
Silver continued.
After this voyage, I'm going to live like a gentleman. You can be rich too, Dick, if you help old Long John. What do you say, my boy? Give me your hand.
Now I understood. This young man was honest, but now he was one of Silver's men. Then I heard the voice of Israel Hands, Silver's friend.
Look, I want to know something. How long must we wait? I want to kill that Captain Smollett. But when, Silver, when?
You're not very clever, Israel,
answered Silver.
You must wait. I'll tell you when. The squire and the doctor have got the map. They'll find the treasure and put it on the ship for us. So we'll wait.
But,
said Dick,
what will we do with the captain, the squire, and the doctor?
That's a good question.
the cook answered.
Well, what do you think? We can leave them on the island, or we can kill them. Flint and Billy Bones always kill people. So I say to you, mates, wait and then kill 'em. Dick, get me an apple from this barrel.
I felt very afraid when I heard this, but I couldn't move. Dick came near the barrel. Then Israel Hands said,
Don't eat those bad apples. Let's drink some rum.
When Dick returned with the rum, the pirates drank. Then a voice shouted, Land ho! Chapter 4. The Island. The pirates ran to look at the land. Quickly I climbed out of the barrel and followed them. In the light of the moon we could see 2 hills.
Who knows this land?
Captain Smollett asked the crew.
Me, sir?
Said Long John. The captain showed him a map of the island.
Is this the place?
Long John looked at the map with big eyes, but it wasn't the map from Billy Bones's chest. It was a copy, and there weren't any red crosses on it. Silver was angry, but he didn't show it. He smiled.
Yes, sir. This is the place.
I wanted to tell my story to the captain, the squire, and the doctor. When Dr. Livesey asked me to go to the cabin and bring his pipe and tobacco, I said,
Doctor, I must speak to you. I have terrible news.
The doctor's face changed, but he said,
Thank you, Jim. Go down to the cabin now.
and then he went to the squire and the captain and spoke to them quietly.
Men,
The captain said to the crew.
the doctor and I are going down to the cabin to drink some wine.
Down in the cabin, I told them everything about Silver's conversation. They looked at me. They didn't move or speak. When I stopped, Mr. Trelawney said to the captain, You were right and I was wrong. What can we do?
We've got time because Silver is clever and he'll wait.
Said the captain.
I think we must attack the pirates first. How many men have we got?
7, including Jim.
Said the doctor.
How many honest men are there in the crew?
There are the 4 men that the squire found before he met Silver.
The captain said. But, said Mr. Trelawney, Israel Hands was one of them.
Well, we don't know how many men are good.
Jim can help us.
Said Dr. Livesey.
The men like him and talk to him. He can tell us who is honest or bad.
There were only 7 men out of 26, and I was only a boy, so there were 6 adult men against 19 pirates. Next morning, I looked at the island. I saw tall trees and yellow sand. The hills were high, but Spyglass Hill was very high. Our ship went towards a small island called Skeleton Island. The men prepared the boats. It was hot, and they didn't like the work. They spoke angrily. We knew they wanted to kill us. But Long John smiled and spoke to them and sang. He helped to take the ship into the big harbour between Skeleton Island and Treasure Island. The captain, the doctor, Mr. Trelawney and I went to the cabin. We gave pistols to the 3 honest men, Hunter, Joyce and Redruth. Then the captain went on deck and told the crew that they could go on the island for the afternoon.
Hooray!
Shouted the men. They were happy now. They thought that the treasure was already in their hands. 6 men stayed on the ship. 13, including Silver, got into the boats. Then I had a crazy idea. I decided to go to the island in one of the boats. I didn't say anything to the doctor and the squire. When I climbed into the boat, nobody saw me. My boat arrived first. I got out and ran fast into the trees. A long way behind me, Long John Silver shouted,
Jim! Jim!
but I ran and ran. I stopped and looked around me. There were strange trees and flowers and birds. The sun was hot. I could see Spyglass Hill in front of me. Then I heard voices, and I went behind a tree. One of the voices was John Silver's. Now I was very afraid. I thought, Jim, you were stupid to come to the island with these pirates, but you must help the doctor and the others. So I moved towards the pirates on my hands and knees.
Tom,
Said Silver.
I like you, mate, and I want to help you.
The other man answered,
Silver, you're honest. I'm sure you don't want to be with these bad pirates. Not you.
So this Tom was one of the honest men. Suddenly there was a long, terrible scream. It came from far away.
What was that, John?
Said Tom. Long John smiled.
That was Alan. He's dead now.
They've killed Alan,
Tom said.
John Silver. You were my friend, but not now. Kill me too, if you can.
Then brave Tom walked away with his back to the cook, but he didn't go far. Silver held the branch of a tree, and he threw his crutch. It hit Tom's back like a missile. He fell, and in a moment Silver killed him with his knife. I couldn't believe it. Now 2 honest men were dead. Then Silver called the other pirates. I ran away very fast. I thought, they'll kill me. Goodbye to the Hispaniola, goodbye to the squire, the doctor, and the captain. I was very near Spyglass Hill. There were a lot of trees around me, like a forest. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind a tree. What was it? I didn't know, and I stopped in terror. Behind me were the pirates. In front of me was this thing. I preferred the pirates, and I began to run back. But the thing began to run too. It ran from tree to tree, on 2 legs. It was a man. Was he a cannibal? I took my pistol, and I walked towards him. Slowly he moved from behind a tree, and he came towards me. Then suddenly he fell on his knees, and he put his hands towards me. I asked him who he was. "Ben Gunn," he answered in a strange voice. I saw that he was a white man. His eyes were blue, but his face was very dark from the sun. His clothes were old and dirty. He said, "You're the first Christian I've seen for 3 years."
What happened?
I asked. "I was marooned." I knew this was a horrible thing. The buccaneers left him on the island to live or to die. "What's your name, mate?" he asked. I told him. "Well, Jim, many years ago I was a good boy like you. But then I became bad, and I drank a lot of rum, and here I am on this desert island." Then he looked around him and said in a quiet voice, "Jim, I'm rich." I thought, he's crazy, poor man. "Rich, rich, I tell you. But wait, Jim, is that Flint's ship down there?"
No, Flint is dead, but some of the crew are Flint's men.
"A man with 1 leg?" Ben Gunn asked, very frightened.
Yes, John Silver. He's the cook and the chief of the pirates.
Then I told him about our voyage and our difficult situation. He said, "Well, Ben Gunn will help you. And then, do you think your squire will help me, perhaps?
Yes, he's a gentleman.
And will he take me to England on the ship?"
Oh, yes, I'm sure.
"Good," Ben Gunn said happily. "I'll tell you something. I was on Flint's ship when he buried the treasure with 6 big, strong seamen. Then he killed the 6 seamen. Well, Billy Bones and Long John asked him where the treasure was, but he didn't tell them. Then, 3 years ago, I was on another ship near this island. 'Boys, let's go and find Flint's treasure,' I said. But we couldn't find it. So the other men were angry with me, and they left me on the island. You must tell the squire all this. Tell him I'm not a pirate, eh, Jim? Tell him I'm a good man."
But how can I
said.
I can't go on the ship now.
"True," he said. "But I've got a boat, Jim. I made it with my 2 hands. It's under the White Rock." At that moment, there was a great sound of cannons.
The battle has begun.
I said,
Quick, follow me.
and I began to run towards the harbour where the Hispaniola was. Ben Gunn came with me. We could hear the sounds of a battle. Then I saw the British flag, the Union Jack, in the air above the trees.